Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to part 2 of fixing up my abandoned 1989 Porsche 944.
This Porsche 944 to be exact, if you didn't see my last video. It's been sitting for 15 years and my hope is to get this thing started for the first time. But in order to do that, we have a lot of work to do. And I mean a lot.
So, a couple things under the hood now you're gonna see that are actually missing, and well, first thing is the intake. I have fully removed the intake. I have been slowly taking things apart on my free time. Second thing is the fans that are under here. I had to remove the fans in order to get access to the crank bolt, which is down there. So I was able to go underneath after I removed the fans and physically crank it to actually make sure that the engine did move and it wasn't seized, which I am happy to report it is not seized, so good.
So let's tackle the first issue and start out by seeing why the car is leaking fuel in the back.
Oh, that's bad.
And as you can see, the rear of the car has seen better days, including these fuel lines. And after removing one bolt to drop the rear gas tank strap, we were able to expose the fuel pump and the fuel line, which runs to the fuel strainer, and that goes into the gas tank.
Okay, well, we got the gas tank cover off. Here is our pump, fuel line going up, and again, the fuel filter tucked all the way up there. So let's go ahead and take the strainer out next, because that's the thing I'm most curious about, is seeing how the inside of this tank looks. Oh. All right, moment of truth. Oh my God. Here it is. Oh my God. That is the old fuel strainer, and I can't believe it. It doesn't look that bad. This is all that came out. There's not a single drop of fuel in there, which might be the best case scenario, because there's no fuel in there. There shouldn't have been too much to kind of rot away the inside of the tank and make the inside of the tank real nasty. There's some crud right there, but it's all dry.
There you go, guys. Look inside. It doesn't look bad. I don't think that looks bad at all. Just gonna help push some of that stuff out. I'm gonna vacuum it, put it right up to here, try and get some of that stuff out, but otherwise, as a whole, it does not look bad at all. If I had a borescope, I would put it in there, but I think we're pretty lucky right now with what we're looking at. So let's keep going. So what I did so far is I actually ordered some new lines, some nice replacements. So we're gonna end up just cutting the rubber hose in the middle of the fuel line. I'll take off the filter, do the same thing on the other line, and then I'll disconnect that fitting at the very end. It's just not enough room in there right now for me to even bother. And again, it's just pretty nasty, and I just want to replace it anyway. So I ordered 2 new lines. So we are going to move from the rear of the car now to the front of the car. What we're going to do now is go ahead and drain the coolant out of the radiator. There's probably going to be nothing. That's what I'm expecting, is that there's going to be almost or pretty much nothing in here. And boy, was I wrong. So after removing the fan connectors out of the way, there's a small plastic blue drain plug at the bottom of the radiator we remove, and that should drain the rest of the coolant for us.
Alright, so off camera I went ahead and took off the starter underneath the car. So now we have the flywheel showing. In order to work on these cars and change anything out, you have to put what's called a flywheel lock into where the starter is to lock the flywheel at top dead center. That tool is right over here. This is what I was talking about before. So it's this guy right here. You have these little teeth. They will lock into the flywheel and keep it from moving when I go ahead and take the belt off. And I have to make sure that everything's at top dead center before I do that. happy to say that the fuel rail is now off of the 944. Here it is. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Really, like, the zinc plating on here, if you could see, is still really nice. Just a little dirty, but like regular dirt. So I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. Both the high pressure and low pressure lines on here are all good. Which means it's now time to tackle the intake manifold and take that off. Guys, this was way more difficult. Taking the intake manifold off, way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So this connection right here was hidden behind the manifold, so I couldn't see where it was getting caught. There was also a couple of extra connectors that I wasn't expecting to take off that I had to, and hoses and vacuum lines. So let's keep moving forward.
One day later, we have again hit another roadblock, which I'm waiting for right now, and that is these tension rods on the lower portion are shot. They are like really shot. I actually snapped a wrench trying to break one of them free. So I went to my local Porsche dealership, shout out to Porsche South Shore, of course, and ordered 2 new parts. They were actually pretty much the same price, even a little cheaper on this one than online to get these. So got 2 new tension rods coming in for the AC compressor and the power steering pump. I have the original hardware here, which is all good, so we're gonna keep that. Once I do that, we can go ahead and finally detension the AC compressor over here and the power steering pump, removing those belts, allowing us to remove this portion of the plastic trim protecting all of the gears. Then when we do that, we can go ahead and finally set the engine to top dead center, remove all of the belts, remove all of the pulleys in here, and then remove that rearmost cover on here as well, replacing the water pump. And as you guys can see, that water pump is completely fried on there, so that would explain why this car is having issues. And I've noticed one other thing too, when draining more fluid out of here and more coolant, I noticed a lot of copper flake coming out of the coolant in here, which is a little concerning. I've now taken all of the coolant hoses off that run everywhere and cleaned them all out and tried to flush them out as much as possible. I got a little bit more fluid out. I'm wondering now if that means that the previous owner put stop leak in here in order to try and fix this car, which was hopefully not something that caused a lot of catastrophic issues inside the engine.
Now, while I wait for some parts to come in, I'm going to paint the old gas tank cover and the intake manifold as well, just to make it look a little bit better. And as a few days went by, my new parts arrived, and off camera, I was able to take off the old water pump, and man, was it in bad shape.
All right, so this is the old water pump off the 944. You could see this thing is shot to no end. The casting on here, I can't find the date for it, but I was able to find the one on the thermostat, and it is October of 2008.
So that makes this water pump nearly 17 years old. So without further ado, this is the new one, and let's go ahead and start reassembling everything. So with all pulleys on, the timing and balance shaft belts on, tensioned and set to top dead center, it was time to install the front cover and finally move on to the intake manifold.
So all we have now is this one extra piece of vacuum line that I actually had laying around from my 4Runner. So I ended up missing, I guess it must have fallen off and I've probably thrown it out now at some point. But we have these two little vacuum lines right here going to the high pressure fuel sender right here. So this vacuum line right here, as you can see, is pretty small and fits onto this little nipple right here. And I happen to have this laying around. So we're gonna cut this to size. I already check that it does fit perfectly, and that'll be a brand new vacuum line. And then tighten everything down. I'm going to check over everything one more time, install the intake, add fluids, and we're gonna see if this thing starts.
So with the fuel lines tightened, spark plug cables and distributor cap on, it was time to fill the car with fluids. I started with distilled water for the coolant so I could flush it once the car was running, hoping to get that old coolant out, but we had a small issue. Well, we had a little bit of an accident. Just a little one. So, as you can see, everything is soaked, and that's for the reason that this little block-off plate, which I had in there, forgot to put the O-ring in it. So I started hearing dripping when I was putting my distilled water into there because I'm going to do a coolant flush, and yeah. Thank God. Everything else, though, in the water pump itself looks good. It was all coming out of the lower end of here. Hopefully with this O-ring in, that should fix our issue. We should be good to go. And now with my small coolant issue fixed, it was time to put the battery in, put some fresh oil in, and install the intake. With that all being done, it was finally time to see if the car started after 15 years. Alright guys, and well, it cranks. It does crank, but we're still at a no start. We're now back to the drawing boards. I think it may have to do with the ignition coil, which I did not replace. I did not replace the ignition rotor and the actual coil itself that has a hardwired connection that goes straight to the battery. I didn't replace that. I just replaced the line that goes from the coil to the actual distributor cap. So I did order those parts now, and yeah, when those come in, we'll go ahead, we'll replace those, and then, you know, we'll kind of move forward from there. Good news, it cranks, everything moves, and the thermostat the water pump is not leaking behind it. So that's good. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. We were successfully able to release the car, get the car cranking. Unfortunately, no start just yet. And then after that, we'll go ahead and dive in and see if it has something to do with, I've seen like the reference sensors and stuff like that. I bought a new DME relay, and I had to already replace that. So that's really it. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.